Coach for Everyone podcast series. Today's conversation is with Mariam Moussa. Mariam is a leadership and team coach. She's also the founder of Procedure. Procedure provides leaders with more clarity and more confidence to lead their teams and businesses towards high performance and success through leadership and team coaching programs. For the past 8 years, she has supported leaders through her tailored one-on-one leadership and team coaching program with more than 1,000 transformational hours, more than 25 organizations, more than 1,000 clients, and more than 160 retreaters. Wow. With that, let's jump into the conversation with Mariam. Hi, Mariam.
Hi, Solange. How are you? Thank you for that.
I'm very well. Welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited for this conversation. We've been waiting for it, and I'm also very happy to get people know you more, or to know you if they don't know you yet, and also learn some valuable insight from you about coaching and about being a coach.
Yeah, I'm very excited myself, and I wish to be of value for anyone listening to us.
Thank you. Well, could you start by telling us maybe a little bit more about your journey and about yourself, like why and how you became a coach?
Yeah. So the whole story started around 10 years ago when I was working as a business analyst in one of the multinational companies. I was performing very well. The CFO was very happy with my output, yet I did not feel fulfilled at all. And this was the moment where I started asking myself all the big questions like, why am I created on this earth? What is my purpose in life? What is my passion? What would really make me truly alive? And from here, I started having my own self-exploration journey. And through this self-exploration journey, I came to the conclusion that definitely I made to be working in something that is more people-oriented. And at that time, I had no clue what coaching was. I've never been exposed to a coach or the term coaching in itself. So I started looking into counseling because I've heard of that. I've started looking into child development because I've heard of that. And I was kind of in the search. And while I was on that search journey and continuously trying out different things that are related to human development, I came across the word coaching online on Google. It's as simple as that, but how people say what's meant to be will always happen in its own unique way. And then when I heard of the term, I started Googling it more, attending online webinars to start and understand what is coaching. And from that moment, I started discovering that, okay, maybe that was actually what I was looking for, but I did not know how it, that actually existed. And then I traveled to London, and this is where I got my first certification. And it was just during that program, when I was there in the room, that I really started feeling that pieces of the puzzle are coming together. This is where I actually felt that, okay, that's really satisfying for me. And I'm so interested to get and to dive deeper and deeper in this. And, the funny story is usually in our resumes, we used to have an objective at the top of the page where you actually say what you would like to be achieving or what kind of job you're looking for. And I've always had that statement that just resonated with me and felt like it's coming from the heart, but I had no clue, and it was not related to any of my previous jobs. But I always had it there because it made sense, even if it wasn't interpreted into a specific job. And after my first program and my first certification, when I went back to my resume to actually update it and then read that objective line, that was just another confirmation that, okay, that's actually literally the definition of what coaching is. And this is the second sign that actually kind of confirmed, okay, my heart is where coaching is. And for me to have been doing coaching for the past 8 years is just kind of like, okay, there's a reason why I'm continuing until this day.
So it's a beautiful story, an incredible story, and you just told us basically how you became a coach. But is there a moment in your journey where you really told yourself, "This is what I want to become, or what I want to do as a career, coach as a career"?
Yeah. So actually, after the first certification, when I came back, I was already doing some work that was related with tutoring kids with learning disabilities. And the more and more I explored with coaching, the more and more I felt kind of like I really want to be doing full-time coaching and decreasing the other things that are taking parts of my plate. And a year after that is when I actually went to my manager and told her, okay, I think I feel this is the right time for me to be giving coaching my all to really see what I can be creating from that. Especially that 8 years ago when I started, I was kind of like a pioneer in my country because coaches and coaching was very, very early and not common at all. So like that was also part of the beauty of the journeys, like seeing the growth of the society and the awareness of the society in terms of like coaching and accepting and like it's not just building my own career in coaching, but it's also like seeing the society building the acceptance for coaching.
Mariam, there's so many different types of coaches, right? And they probably all very necessary in their area. And you introduce yourself as a leadership coach, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What is it exactly? What is a leadership coach? What is unique about a leadership coach? Can you clarify this a little bit for the listeners? Mm-hmm.
Sure. So basically, leadership coaching is when you're working with leaders. And sometimes leaders are managers in organizations or executives or as a like C-suite. And sometimes they're actually leaders where they're high potentials or they're actually the highly talented people or even individuals that are seeking to become their own business owners and entrepreneurs or even like individuals who want to start creating their own impact regardless of the position they're in. So usually when we talk about leadership, we start with self-leadership. And that basically means like, how am I leading myself? How am I leading my life? How am I taking charge of that? And then later on, how am I leading a team if I'm leading a team? How am I leading a business if I'm leading a business? And usually with leadership coaching, we're working on the leader themselves and their own personal growth and not just like the technical part of like the strategy, business plans, and all of that. So like a big part of the transformational journey is like more of internally. How am I becoming the best leader? How am I actually stepping into my full potential in order to create the influence that I dream of?
And another thing that I believe is important, we often hear that to become, for example, a psychotherapist, one should first be or have been in therapy. Is it the same for coaching? Do you think that it's necessary to be coached before coaching?
So I honestly like I'll answer that from my own story. Like I was never coached before being a coach, and I've seen so many amazing coaches that have never been coached beforehand. But it's the moment when you start realizing the impact of coaching that you would want this result that you create for your clients for your own self. So I definitely started hiring my own coach afterwards because I want that own growth and that exceeding and my unlocking of potential for myself as well as my clients. So like for me, it was vice versa. I came across coaching more kind of like from a desire of I want to be helping others. And then as a result, I ended up like benefiting so much more from that. And I started hiring my coach afterwards. So that I wouldn't say necessity, but it's also very common to hear a lot of coaches saying that I actually hired a coach and I loved what they did for me. And I felt like I too want to be doing that for others.
Yeah. So what I hear here is that from your point of view, it's important actually to be, as a coach, to be on a journey to improve yourself, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What is the best part of being a coach for you so far?
So for me, the best part is that I feel like the work that I'm doing is very meaningful. Even at times when I need like patience to see the results, but at the end of the day, it gives me a purpose and gives me meaning. And I feel kind of like, okay, I really see the impact of the work that I'm doing. When I start seeing others step into success, when they start reaching their goals, when they start getting unstuck from a certain pattern that has been holding them back for years and years, when I start seeing relationships and sometimes like even team relationships transform completely, that allows actually someone to start enjoying their job rather than just like be performing from a place of I have to because I want my salary at the end of the month. Those are really the moments that actually make it very meaningful and satisfying for me.
When you see basically your client transform and change their life, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Do you want to share a success story of a client that you have coached, obviously without sharing their name, right? But just to illustrate really, the impact of coaching that you just talked about, to have something maybe more tangible to share with the listeners.
100%. So the one time I was coaching a client, and that client was responsible of a whole team in an organization. And I don't want to be sharing more details, so like no one gets any slight clue about what that
No.
could be. And basically, the objective of that leadership coaching was kind of like understanding his leadership style, and at the same time understanding what did his team or her team actually need. And when I say that, it's very important to also be very self aware as a leader. Like, that is my nature and that is my autopilot pattern. And what impact is that creating with my team? Because with different people joining the team, there will be different needs for a different leader or like different parts of you. And with that client, I was actually working on helping them become more assertive and more kind of like direct, because that was what was very much needed by the team. That client was very technically amazing, very technically dependent on, but they wanted to be developing more that assertiveness part. And we started working on that and started changing like his mindset around like being assertive and the benefits of being assertive while not losing the team. So it's not kind of like giving orders around, but what's the true impactful meaning of being assertive. And and then when he started actually seeing that impact that he was creating by being assertive and how he actually started gaining more control and more not authority, but kind of like more impact on the team, they actually started realizing how much easier they started reaching their goals and how much more um, impact they're creating within the team. The beauty of it as well was kind of like when those around him, whether they were team members or other leaders of the organization, started seeing that shift and went back to the client and telling them, okay, that is actually a new way of you reacting to a certain situation. And so well done on that. And like, this is kind of like an example of how sometimes the shift and the results aren't just internally felt, but they're also witnessed by those around us.
Wow. And Mariam, when your clients see, such powerful impact, in their life, do they come back to you? Do they, in general, do they come back to coaching once they've done it once?
So I think this depends from a client to another, because coming back to coaching depends on several deciding factors. Definitely one main goal of coaching is not to make the client dependent on us. So the purpose of coaching is not to always be there for the client, but to be building muscles for that client to be able to achieve what we've achieved together on their own after they're done with coaching. But usually what happens down the road when it's a completely new challenge, when it's a completely new area in their life, because they've seen the impact and they want to replicate the experience, they might be actually coming back to coaching, given they have the investment of time and money and everything else. So I've had clients that come back after a while for a new purpose. And I've had clients that are in touch with me like down the road and maybe not come back for a full coaching journey, but kind of like just follow-up sessions afterwards.
I really, really love this idea of not making them dependent, right? This is powerful. And there is a saying that goes along the line of there are too many coaches in this world, and it has become harder and harder to find your place as a coach and make a living from it. It's a saying, but I would love to hear what you think of that.
Yeah. So my perspective on that is like, if we look at the number of coaches in the world, it's not that big of a number in itself. So for example, if you look at the number of engineers in the world versus the number of coaches, then that number would just be inconsiderate. But compared to the openness and the demand and the acceptance of coaching and the awareness of coaching in the market, this is where it starts feeling kind of like there's a gap between the supply and the demand for coaching. So recently, the more awareness is happening, and the more people are accepting coaching, the demand is definitely increasing, but the supply is also increasing, and I believe at a much faster rate. And that's why suddenly we're having so many coaches, and yet the society and the clients aren't like up to beat with that, because we're still in the awareness and education phase of what coaching is, what's the difference between coaching, counseling, training, consulting, and so many other services, which are all amazing. And it's not that one substitutes the other, but it's more kind of like really understanding as a client, when do I need a coach, when do I need a therapist, when do I need a consultant, and so on, and hence like get there. So like I feel we're in a stage where there are a lot of coaches, not as many clients at the same time, or maybe not a surplus of clients, but that doesn't mean that the whole world are coaches, not at all, and not even close yet.
This makes me feel happy, because I too believe that we don't have enough coaches, that we need more and more coaches in this world. So, Mariam, from this beautiful conversation, do you think that being a coach is for everyone? Because this is the title, after all, of our podcast series. So, is being a coach for everyone? What is your answer?
I'd say no. And coaching is not for everyone, but that doesn't mean that not everyone can benefit from coaching. So coaching, yes, there are skills to learn, but there's also one thing that is very important in being a coach, which is the being part. And the being part is like who you are as a coach, not just the coaching skills that you're doing. So like a lot of people read books about how to ask coaching questions and powerful questions, and especially like managers inside organizations, and then they go back and try to implement all those coaching questions, and then they feel resistance from their clients. And usually this happens because the coach wasn't trained on the right being and how to really create the space for coaching to create the impact that is desired, but it's more kind of like robotic implementation of questions that actually feels with the client as interrogation, or like this is too much, or like, okay, so you think you're better than me, or whatever feedback they start receiving. And that does not mean that that person cannot be a coach if they're properly trained, but it just means like if you're not a person that you're willing to see potential in others and you're constantly judging others, then definitely that's not a place or a space for you to do coaching from, because then you're definitely not going to be creating the impact that is desired.
Thank you. I love this answer. So it has to come from a place of being willing to empower basically others, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Very, very nice. And so we are approaching the end of this beautiful podcast. What are some last pieces of advice, Mariam, that you would like to give to our listeners who want to become a coach, who are dreaming to become a coach?
I think one advice is for you to really, really know what does it take, and to really be willing to put in the work, because it's not easy, but it's definitely worth it for me. And if it's really what's meant to be for you, go for it full-heartedly. And one thing that I'd like to leave as a message for everyone listening to us, whether they decide to actually become a coach or not, is one thing that I always say: lead the day before the day leads you. Usually we leave circumstances, other people, to kind of like decide how our lives kind of like happen for us. But I say, like, taking charge and you deciding and making conscious choices and putting kind of like a goal in front of you and following that is one of the important things for actually anyone to have a satisfied life and a satisfied career as well.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mariam. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a wonderful conversation, very, very insightful, at least for me. Mariam, last thing, if people want to reach out to you, how can they find you and where?
So I'm definitely available on mostly all social media platforms. People can be reaching out on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram, whether under the name of Mariam Musa, the leadership coach, or Prestige, which is my organization.
Thank you so much, Mariam. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for having me.